got their mics on mute, and when the presenters start speaking, if you don't mind closing off your video just so that there's no distractions for speakers, that'd be fantastic. Good morning, everyone. It's brilliant to see so many people joining. I think we're up at, gosh, over 50 now, so it's lovely to see you all. And thanks very much for joining us to celebrate International Women in Engineering Day for 2021. As a recap, just in case for new people coming on, we're going to mute mics and keep videos off because we're recording the session so that those who can't make it can look back on it after, or if you want to watch it again, you can. Please use the chat facility to ask any questions. I was saying to Heather earlier, Sarah and I were saying to Heather earlier, it's an informal session. Please ask anything you want. Use the chat facility to post your questions. We'll run questions at the end of each of the speaker sessions. So please feel free to ask anything that that arises in the presentations, which I'm sure are going to be fantastic and full of lots of great information. Just a little bit about Women in Rail. I promise I won't go on too long. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Shona Clive, Chair of Women in Rail Scotland. Scottish Engineering is a long-term friend of Women in Rail Scotland. We've held several events in partnership with Scottish Engineering, and actually we held our launch day back in 2018 in this beautiful boardroom with Scottish Engineering. So they're very special friends of Women in Rail Scotland. So again, we're delighted and very grateful for their support with this event too. Women in Rail, I'll do a quick scoot round it. The best thing that I can suggest is that if you don't know anything about Women in Rail, womeninrail.org is a fantastic resource where you can find out more about the organisation. It's a brilliant organisation. As I said, I've been in it since 2018. We've got a great steering group in Scotland. I saw Lorna Gibson on the call today. I'm not sure if any others are here, but we've got a fantastic group and we run events to support our members. So please have a look and feel free to get in touch with us if you want to find out anything. So Women in Rail was created to improve diversity in the UK rail industry, and it does it in three key ways really. So it offers networking opportunities and support for women within the sector. It encourages businesses to adopt equality, diversity and inclusion as a business strategy, and it helps promote rail as an attractive career choice for young people. Although we're called Women in Rail, we accept men too, so we are a diverse organisation, although the name might not suggest it. So if there's any men on here that are interested in joining, we'd love to have you on board. Women in Rail is now in its 8th year and has over 5,000 members across the rail sector, men and women. It's got 9 regions and it's got an international group in Malaysia as well. Scotland is, as I said before, Scotland was launched in May 2018 and has been steadily growing ever since. We've got about 300 members in our group, and that continues to grow. So we welcome everybody and we look forward to any new members that want to join us. Finally, just a quick scoot round some of the things that Women in Rail is very, very good at. It's got a brilliant mentoring programme. I've been a mentor and a mentee in it. Both were fantastic experiences. It hosts quite a lot of large corporate events, the Women in Rail Awards, celebrating great men and women across the rail sector. It runs a big diversity challenge, if you've heard of that. And it's got a great careers page, actually, that you might not know about, that where they post lots of jobs for women and men across the rail sector. So it's a great resource for people to use. It also recently launched the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Charter in conjunction with the Railway Industry Association, and it's got about 130 companies that have signed up to it. So there's a great appetite for this area in business. I think that's really all I'm going to say about Women in Rail, and probably thankfully because we've got 3 fantastic speakers. I'm absolutely delighted to introduce Heather Waugh. Heather is the first of our fantastic speakers and is Freightliner's first ever female train driver in Scotland, and she's also a member of Women in Rail Scotland. She's brilliant. She's passionate about issues around mental health, equality and inclusion, and her career has been truly inspirational so far, and I'm personally really excited to hear what her career path has been like and all the snippets she can tell us of her journey. So over to you, Heather. Thank you very much.
Well, what an introduction. It's going to go downhill fast from here, isn't it? I've done a couple of slides. I wasn't going to, but then I wanted to kind of share a couple of things. So let me just see if we can get these up. And is that shown on your screen?
Coming now.
Yeah.
Is that you? Brilliant. So thanks very much everybody for having me. All I'm actually going to do this morning is just talk about why I love my job, because it's the easiest thing in the world to talk about when you're genuinely passionate about what you do and you enjoy what you do. So the first few photos up here, this is me at my work. And the first thing that I really want you to notice there is, although I don't like my photo getting taken, I want you to look at the smile, because I genuinely do love my job, and I think it shows anytime you speak to me or you see me out and about. I've been a train driver now for 15 years. So I spent 13 years driving passenger trains with ScotRail before moving to become a freight train driver with Freightliner about 2.5 years ago. Prior to joining the railway, I was an operational manager with Royal Mail. I came straight in as a train driver. I did enjoy my job at Royal Mail, but after 10 years, I was pretty exhausted. That constant feeling that you were kind of treading water or forever taking your work home with you, wondering if anything you were doing was actually making a difference. And I'm sure I'm not alone in having feelings like that in those type of roles. So this is what I do for a living now, just a slight difference. I get to drive 10,000 brake horsepower locomotives, 2,000-ton freight trains across the country, exporting and importing vital supplies. I'm doing my bit for the economy and the environment, and obviously with the pandemic over the last 12 months, you know, what we do has been highlighted even more. I feel genuinely proud to be entrusted with these trains. I mean, what a privilege and an honour it is every single day still to go out and be handed the key to that train. I've genuinely never loved what I do or where I work more than what I do right now. So I want you to have a look around you, where you are right now. Like, I'm serious. Have a look around you, do it. Are you in an office? Are you working from home? Have you got your phone and your computer on mute because there's alerts constantly coming at you? Well, I want to share what my office view is, and it's pretty spectacular. Every day it changes. Every day it's moving, and it's the beautiful countryside around us. And I'm not saying that to brag, and I'm certainly not saying it to undermine what you do for a living. But today, my priority is to ask a simple question. And that is, what is stopping you? So if at any point so far you've looked at any of these pictures and thought, wow, she's lucky, or that looks amazing, what is stopping you? Have you ever considered train driving? And if not, why not? If you don't think you've got the skills, I bet you do things every single day that can be transferred to train driving, whether it's prioritising, problem solving, communicating, concentrating. Maybe you're still not convinced. So this is where I wanted to add some slides, because I wanted to introduce you to some people. This is my good friend Sue. Sue was a beauty therapist for 10 years, bringing up 3 children. She joined the railway as a kind of stopgap, becoming a ticket examiner, but instead she went on to become a train driver with ScotRail, and then moved to cross country as a train driver, and she's currently a driver team manager with cross country in Plymouth. Because the railway remains one of the very few industries where internal promotion is open to every single grade. If you have the skills and the attitude required, you can apply for any position within our industry. The recent engineering director at ScotRail started as an apprentice, I'm sure, and I personally have a friend who, up until last year, was an on-train cleaner and has just recently become a train driver and started their training. So just to share what Sue had to say, she says, here I am 11 years later, I'm now a driver team manager after being a train driver for 5 years. I'd like to think that I've been a role model for other people to follow their dream and not let their doubts stop them from achieving their goal. The railway is a fabulous environment to work in. We support and treat each other with respect. It doesn't matter what talk you work for, we are all railway family. I'll need to pull her up for not mentioning freight either, so remind me about that. But here's the thing, I'm speaking passionately about this. Sue's speaking passionately. Women still make up less than 10% of train drivers in the UK. Why? I'm hugely passionate about what I do, and I hate the thought that misconceptions could be stopping others from joining and enjoying our industry or applying to become a train driver. So you do start to wonder, is it just me? So yesterday, I randomly looked up some female train drivers on Facebook and Twitter. Some of them I know, some of them I don't. And I asked them, what are their views? And I can hand in heart say I had a response from every single one of them, and I want to share them with you. So this is Jennifer Stewart, a train driver and a train driver instructor with ScotRail. And Jennifer said, I had doubts as to whether it would be for me, as at the time the depot only had 2 female drivers, so I was a bit unsure. I was a little apprehensive going into the training as I'm not too mechanically minded, and I was worried about my abilities to do the job to the highest standards. However, I've now been driving for ScotRail for 9 years, and I've been an instructor for the last 3. When I have a male trainee, passengers assume I'm the one being trained. I can honestly say that if you're doubting your ability as a female to be able to do the job, then you're very much mistaken. You are capable of anything. Next person I heard back from, Bess Matthews, works down south with Great Western Railways as a trainee depot driver. She says training to drive trains is a fantastic experience. All of a sudden, you're in control of something so large and so powerful. The responsibility and the trust that you're given as a train driver is a real confidence boost, with a role that grows with you as you grow as a person. It's a dream role for a reason. Claire Douglas, another member of Women in Rail, formerly with ScotRail and Direct Rail Services, now with Avanti West Coast. Claire came back and said, 20 years in the railway this month, into my 14th year as a train driver. I couldn't imagine doing any other job now. I love being able to get out and about, travelling through the countryside, whether it's sunny or snowing. Every day is a different challenge, and I would say to anyone thinking about it, go for it. You won't look back. Being a train driver is the best job I've ever had. And the last person I sent a little message to, Becky French, a driver with South Western Trains. I genuinely think that train driver is a fantastic job for a woman. We work on equal terms to male drivers. The job is interesting, challenging. No 2 days are the same. As a driver, you are constantly challenging yourself to improve driving technique, remembering aspects of the route or the rule book. I'd encourage any women to apply. The hours, terms and conditions and rewards are great and have been hard fought by strong and inclusive unions. I get to drive 12-car trains into Waterloo Station, having driven through the seaside and country of Hampshire and Surrey. It's a fantastic job. Now, I selected these drivers genuinely at random, and every one of them have responded. I personally have never heard from a woman train driver who doesn't love what they do. I could pick another 5 people at random today, and I guarantee I would get a similar response. So if you are a woman watching this and thinking it looks great, but it isn't you, my determination today is to get you to ask why. Absolutely, train driving isn't for everyone, but being a woman is not a barrier to being a fantastic train driver. So why don't you just find out a bit more about the job? But if you're still not convinced, here's some random facts about the railway. We have excellent pension schemes. We have fantastic benefits and conditions, including free and reduced train travel from you and your family. You'll have quality time off. I've never had as much time off in my life, which is why I was out paddleboarding in -10 in December, because I'm off my head now. I touched on this earlier. You'll be part of an industry where there is literally a job for everyone, whether you want to be in marketing, finance, HR, engineering, communications, you can do that in the railway, and there are no limits to where you want to go. And we really are one railway family, from drivers to signallers to chaplains to the British Transport Police to directors. You will join a family where we look after each other. And I really just have one last point to make or comment to make. The next time you go to hire a car or you meet somebody for the first time and you get asked that question, what do you do for a living? Just imagine for a second, genuinely just imagine answering, I'm a train driver, because I can assure you it's the best feeling. And even after 15 years, I still get such a sense of pride when I answer that question. So go on, why don't you look into train driving? You know, the next steps are look up train and freight companies in your area, add yourself to their careers notifications, start asking questions about the job. Genuinely, what is stopping you? And I think at that point I'll stop talking and let you carry on.
That was Heather, thank you so much. So if we have any questions, just a wee short couple of questions before we go on to our next speaker for Heather, then if anybody wants to put them in the chat function, or if you want to come off of mute to ask a question, then go ahead.
Can I ask a question to start? Heather, do trains actually have keys? I know that sounds really stupid, but you said a train's got you put your key in the train. That's like, oh.
Train driver without a key, I'll be disowned, but I generally don't have a key on me. But it's the same key for, as far as I'm aware, just about the same key for just about every kind of passenger train, locomotive. So there's some differences, but yeah, genuinely we do have a key. And and when you kind of come back from holiday, you know, and we're all like that, no matter what job we do, we're like, how do you get the key back in again? You know, it's that wee. But yeah, we have keys.
Fantastic. That was a brilliant, thanks so much. That was absolutely brilliant. Really, I hope it inspires people to think. I love your questions, so thanks so much. I don't know if anyone else has got a question.
I've got a wee question, Heather. It sounds like a fantastic job, and it sounds like, see, that idea of just being on the train yourself, seeing the countryside rolling by, it sounds amazing. My only question is, how would you say you deal with, I imagine sometimes it could perhaps be quite a lonely job. How do you deal with that and feelings of feeling quite isolated?
I think that's why it's so important that people take the time to research the job and any job. You know, I think all jobs in the railway have a fairly good salary, and train drivers have a particularly well-known good salary, and people can get blinded by that. It's really important that you know that you have the personality to be able to adapt to that job, which is why there's so many introverts become train drivers. You know, but it doesn't mean that you're a loner. It just means that you have those concentration skills. And let's face it, most people here have been stuck in the house for 8 hours a day, working from home, somehow trying to find a way to focus and concentrate on what you're doing while the world goes around you. So most of us do have those concentration skills. And when you're driving a train, you know, it's that concentration actually passes the time, so you don't feel lonely. You know, it's not like you're sitting there looking at the scenery and thinking, for another 4 hours and I'll get there. You're always working, you're always thinking, you're always reacting. So it's the first job I've ever had where you're not looking at your watch because you're wanting the time to pass. You're always focused. So the loneliness for me has never been a problem. And then you have that kind of interaction in the mess room where, you know, everybody just has a good chat. But it is why train drivers are usually really, really pleased that people come along for a cab ride, because it's just great to have somebody to talk to, but that's a rarity rather than an everyday thing.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Heather. So now we're going to introduce our second speaker of the morning, Shannon Todd. Shannon is currently in her 3rd year as an apprentice, specialising in HSE, which is health and safety. And she's also studying a HNC in manufacturing engineering. Her passion lies in achieving equality for women in engineering, and her overall goal is to help women realise that engineering needs them. So without further ado, on to you, Shannon.
Thank you. Morning, everybody. I've just got a couple of slides with some pictures. So before I get started, just a little bit about me. I'm a third year apprentice with Technique FMC in Dunfermline, and I'm currently specialising in HSE. This is my dog Rocco. He's my whole universe, so I feel like he deserves a special shout out. But in my journey through the whole time I've been with FMC, there's 3 people that deserve key recognition for getting me to where I am today. And these set of twins here, they're my first. They've been my best friends for 7 years now, and they have, without a doubt, got me to where I am today. I'm not too sure what I would have done without their support. Um, and you know, when adults ask high school children, when they leave school or when they're in their senior years, like how was high school or how is high school? And you'll get a typical response from teenagers saying, you know, worst years of my life, I really didn't enjoy it and stuff. And for the first 4 years of high school, that was true for me. In my first year of high school, I was mentally, emotionally, physically, and cyberly bullied until I moved schools in second year. So by this point, I'd lost all confidence in myself. I had no idea where I was going in the future. I'd wanted to study law, but by fourth year, I was on the verge of being kicked out of school, and I was on the verge of failing my exams because of everything I had going on in my personal life. So my guidance teacher in fourth year brought forward about a career ready programme. So this is a programme for fifth and sixth year students who maybe don't know what they want to do at uni, or they're applying for uni but they might not have the academic grades to quite get them there, or just for people who didn't know where they were going. So she thought this was a great opportunity for me to give me a purpose in life and to kind of help me find myself. And it also kind of kept me in school for my last 2 years. So I was accepted onto the Careers Ready programme. This picture in the middle here, there is 5 of us, but it's cropped it. So 5 of us were selected out of our whole fourth year. And so the aim with Careers Ready is you get paired with a mentor. So this is my mentor here. Her name's Katie and she's a business partner with FMC. So you'll do 6 masterclasses throughout your 2-year structure, and then in your summer of 5th year, you'll do a paid internship with your mentor's company. So mine's was FMC. I was a really anxious 16-year-old. I wouldn't say boo to a ghost. And I didn't like talking to people. So we were put on rotations in multiple departments, and that was terrifying for me because I had to go see all of these different people and stuff. So Katie brought me into the company for 2 weeks before I started my internship every day just to get me used to the building, seeing faces. Um, you know, she really helped me get into the zone for coming in. So my first department was health and safety. And I think I'd only been in the seat for 30 minutes, and my colleague turned around and went, "Are you up for a challenge?" My straightaway answer was no. So um, I didn't get a choice in the matter. I had to go do it anyway. So it was the locker project that my colleague wanted to implement into the industry at the time. It was very big in colleges and schools in England. So locker is learning occupational hazards by experiencing risks. So I was put in a room with 9 second year apprentices, 4 university graduates, and the 3 other careers ready students. So as you can see here, this is the team of us. So this was obviously pre-COVID in 2018. And, you know, I didn't want to present in this. I didn't want too much to do with the project. But I slowly fell into the role of project manager, and I even ended up in the role of presenting. So this picture here is my first ever experience of presenting to people, and I was terrified. But the feeling it gave me as a 16-year-old to be standing in front of all of these engineers and explaining centers of gravities and drop zones and lifting and slinging to people was phenomenal. You know, you're staring at these engineers in the face and they're kind of looking at you going, how did you learn that much in like 4 weeks time? And I got commended really highly after it. And this led to me being brought back in my October holidays and many holidays following on. And I was the first intern to ever be brought back. So fast forward to 2019, I graduated Careers Ready as the Fife Regional Student of the Year, which I never saw coming at all. You know, standing up on that stage talking to 1,000 people, I would never have seen myself in that space 2 years prior. From failing my exams to passing every exam to then graduating like that, phenomenal. So during my just going on to third year of my apprenticeship, I've done a lot with the FMC that would never have been possible without Careers Ready. So my third shout out is to this guy here. This is John. He's currently my mentor in the HSE department. And he won't take a lot of recognition for it, but I don't think he realizes how much he's done for me throughout this whole thing. You know, he doesn't take the credit for it, but I definitely wouldn't be in the position that I'm in with FMC now if he hadn't kind of scooped me up. So during my time with FMC, I got to go to the Scottish Parliament and present the Locker project to the MPs and the MSPs. I got to meet Nicola Sturgeon. I got to sit in the chambers, and it was really surreal to think that I'd got myself that far just for standing up and talking to people. I also got to participate in my first black tie event, which is the two top corner foes. And you know, at 17, going to your first black tie event, not a lot of people can say that they've experienced that. But this was due to the fact that FMC had been nominated for Best Skills Partnership due to everything that they'd done with Careers Ready and university interns and college graduates and stuff. And I got to come in for the interview for that as FMC's success story to speak to the judges and kind of let them see firsthand how we've experienced and how we worked it out and how they managed to make it work. So last year I got my NC in manufacturing engineering as the only female in the class. And I'm also currently studying my HNC in manufacturing engineering as the only female studying manufacturing engineering, which is a great feeling because engineering was never something that was in my path. As I said before, I wanted to do law, but I never quite got that far. And then by fifth year, I decided I wanted to do social work. I wanted to help kids who'd been in positions like me growing up and kind of be that inspirational role for them. So I've always wanted to help people. It's just ending up in engineering and health and safety was completely different from how I'd predicted it to happen. But then in November last year, I got awarded my radiation protection supervisor certificate as the youngest person in the UK to get it, and the only apprentice to also have the certificate. So that was a really big achievement for me. It was a 2-day exam, and I'm pretty sure the office was sick of seeing me stress and cry about it, but it's fine because I passed it. My future with FMC, I'm currently working on a PPE project with the company to make the company more inclusive and diverse for their female engineers. We discovered a gap in the company for providing our female apprentices and also our female engineers with female specific PPE, which I discovered is a really big gap in the industry. And our leadership team had kind of skipped over it because it's only recently we've started to have such a high intake of females into the workplace, especially in an engineering role. So I've been tasked with a project to make it more inclusive for them, and myself included in that because I do wear my overalls from time to time, and wearing men's overalls isn't the comfiest. So I'm currently running trials with our female apprentices to bring in female PP specifically for them, to make us more inclusive and diverse as a company. Um, I'm also preparing to study mini Bosch in 2 weeks as the first apprentice in FMC. Um, I'd like to also be appointed as an RPS when I finish my apprenticeship, so that's on its way as well. And I'm getting ready to take on the role as a radiation advisor. But my overall goal is to obviously become a health and safety advisor with the company because I want to help people, but I also want to show females in engineering that they can be engineers, whether they're in an apprenticeship full of 17 males, which is my position. You can be at the bottom of the scale ready to fail exams, but you can still be getting ready to sit an EBOS qualification or a HNC in engineering. Um, and I'd also like to show people that health and safety can be a women's field as well as a male's, as it is still male dominated. So I'd like to be that role model for people. And I think because I'm only 19, I can connect with school kids in a way to make them understand I've been in their situation. So that's my goal with the engineering industry, and that is me.
You check.
Sorry, we bit of a mute problem there. Shannon, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. What an amazing story. And I mean, I don't know if anybody else sort of thought this as well, but all the way that you were talking, I thought, and then when you just said I'm 19, I mean, the confidence that you have is fantastic. And talking about how you were bullied and how you've come to become such a confident young woman, and you're so confident in your abilities. And I think the support that you've had at TechNet has really helped you flourish to become such an amazing engineer. Well, on your way to becoming an amazing engineer, but that is just a really fantastic story. So we're just going to open up quickly for some questions. If anybody would like to direct any questions towards Shannon in the chat function, or if you even want to unmute yourself, just let us know.
Shannon, hi. Could I ask a question, please? That was really inspirational, certainly for someone so young. I'm really impressed, and you're making me nervous. Can I just ask a question about the Career Ready programme? Is that specific to your geographic area or your school, or is that wider across education now?
I'm pretty sure it is UK wide.
Right.
We definitely do have it in a lot of schools in Scotland. So
right, okay, so that's really interesting, because I wasn't aware of that, and I'd certainly be keen to see how that's doing in schools. Great, thanks very much.
So that's great. If we've not got any more questions for Shannon, it says here, we've got Janice Morgan.
So
Janice, can you perhaps even unmute yourself if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask?
Yeah, it's just to say that the chat box is saying to me that I'm not a member of the group for some reason. But can I just say, Shona will know in the I'll take you back here. In the 1990s, I was a member of the health and safety function in First Engineering before I changed to Babcock Rail, where I worked with Shona. And I'm quite inspired that Shannon's now, after all this time, considering PPE for women. I used to go out on the main line with the guys when they were introducing train operating warning systems, etc. I'm 5'1" and I have size 3 feet. So there was a panic because I couldn't get health and safety boots at that time. And they actually had to go to a manufacturer and actually get them to make me a pair. So I'm glad that somebody's finally looking at that. Thank you.
That's brilliant.
Hi, I'm Dot Smith. I work with Fife Council's Economic Development team. I just wanted to really mirror what other people have said on today's call. Just what an absolute inspiration, Shannon. You really are, to kind of show as a kind of economy and where we are at this moment in time. It's about developing that young workforce, and I think you've just completely highlighted and showcased how to do that, how you can take control, and how you've developed genuinely. If I could hug the screen, I would hug the screen. But no, how in terms of your journey and what you've done, absolutely fantastic. And just as a wee shout out, because I have to whenever I can, that's why Fife means business. So it is about engaging with young people to prepare them for that working world. And the programmes that are in place, like the Career Ready, fantastic initiative, and it just shows the success. So well done and good luck.
thank you so much.
We've got a lovely comment from Stuart McKinley as well here, Shannon. It says, emotional, powerful and inspiring, Shannon. You're a great role model. Thank you for sharing. And also in the comments, we've got Rodney has put the link to Career Ready. If anybody's interested in reading more about that, you can find it in the chat function. So I think we'll move on to our final speaker. Last but certainly not least is our final speaker, Lorraine O'Reilly. Lorraine is a retired civil servant and is also a chartered engineer, and she has a long and successful career working with the Ministry of Defence. So Lorraine is currently a mentor for Scottish Engineering. In case you don't know about our mentoring programme, you can have a look at it on our website. We'll link to it in the chat function. But yes, Lorraine is keen to share her extensive knowledge with the next generation of engineers, and certainly wants to promote engineer as a career option for everyone, but especially women. So Lorraine, over to you.
Okay, thanks very much. So morning everyone, and yeah, thanks to Scottish Engineering for allowing me the opportunity to share the platform with Heather and Shannon at this event. I mean, like them, I'm also very, very keen to inspire people to take up engineering, and that's young or old, noting that people switch careers at various stages through their life, but in particular, I'm very keen to inspire women in engineering. And I'm amazed still, you know, 40 years after starting out, because I'm coming at this from the other end of the spectrum here, having spent 40 years nearly in employment, that representation of women is still as low as it is today. And also I find it frustrating that we're still having to continuously push STEM education in schools. So I'm in a position now that, you know, I'm looking back and I'm reflecting on, you know, my life, my career, and how that's enriched my life. It hasn't been plain sailing throughout, but the challenges that I've experienced have certainly shaped me become the person I am today. So what I want to talk about is, and apologies, I don't have slides, so I'm just talking to the screen and some notes. I want to talk about just how my career started and how my career anchor evolved, and then talk about how my career developed and progressed, some of the achievements, and then just a bit of a reflection back on that at the end. So I didn't grow up wanting to be an engineer, and it's true to say that I stumbled into engineering. So I got to my 5th year in school, having done my hires. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I didn't have the benefit of a career ready programme at that time. And but I was aware of apprenticeships. It was something naturally that a lot of the boys left school and went on to do. And I certainly don't recall it being brought to my attention in my guidance class at school to say there was a career option for me when I left school. But I was aware enough to know that it was an opportunity to learn a skill, gain qualifications, and be paid at the same time. And for a 16 to 18-year-old, which was normally the age group that where people were attracted to apprenticeships, you know, that was a good option at the time. So I applied for apprenticeship, and I was fortunate enough to be taken on by the Ministry of Defence. And at that time, apprenticeships of that nature, they were fairly abundant. There were a lot of opportunities. So my particular apprenticeship, it was a 4-year apprenticeship, 2 years full-time at college, followed by another 2 years working at the Naval Base on Clyde. And there was further day release. So during the course of my apprenticeship, I worked towards an HNC qualification. During the apprenticeship itself, I learned a lot about basic engineering. I learned how to weld, how to do sheet metal work, how to operate machinery. I learned to understand building design. I learned about communications and security. And I learned about electrical power generation and distribution. And that was the aspect of engineering that really gripped me. And that then came on to become my career anchor. I thought electrical power engineering was really exciting. It was big. We were talking about 11,000 volts. That was quite exciting to me. And also there was the challenge in that, because electrical power engineering demands safety in its approach. So you had to be smart enough, sensible enough, wise enough to understand how that functioned. And therefore, that was a real attraction, that whole management aspect. At that time when I started out the apprenticeship, there was 2 other girls started at the same time. And in that time, one of them dropped out, one followed into a path of calibrations and system type engineering, which meant then I was the only one who actually went out into the field. So I was the only girl at the time. And it was 6 years before they actually took on another female. So Clyde is a naval base where I was employed with the Ministry of Defence, and there's 2 sites there for those that aren't familiar. There's Fastlane, which acts as a garage for ships and submarines coming out to be serviced and maintained, and the other site is Coolport, where it's a massive storage facility for equipment that gets loaded and unloaded from submarines. And both of those sites have got their own power distribution generating stations, and there's a network of electrical power installations there, all of which requires to be operated and maintained. As I say, I gravitated towards that. I knew that was a specialism that I wanted to learn, and I got the opportunity to operate in that environment. And I built my skills. I was fortunate enough to be surrounded by a team who see me as a novelty at the start, treat me as the mascot in the team for a bit, but then you learn to develop your skills and you can show that you're just as good as they are, and you get yourself noticed, you do well in your education, and through counsel and engagement with the people. I mean, mentoring wasn't a formalised approach for me at that time, but I was able to identify people that I could work with who would help me grow, and that was how I set about developing myself at that time. So having learned how to operate and maintain these systems, I set my sight on roles that I knew that I wanted to do. There was a particular role, it was a control engineer role. It was quite a coveted role at Clyde as well. And I thought, I absolutely want to do that job. And I came up against resistance at the time because I'd never been a female in the job. It was a job that demanded, it was 24/7, 365 days a year. There was 5 control engineers who operated on a shift pattern. So there was real hesitancy about putting a female in that environment, and also just in general having a female in control of a large generating station. However, I went through the process to apply, and I managed to fight off the competition, and I secured that job and became the first female in the role. And that then gave me the opportunity and the springboard to go on to my university education, and I secured my degree in electrical power engineering. So a career in defence, a bit like the railways as well. A good thing about defence and the civil service is there is an opportunity for career advancement, for promotion, and the opportunities are there and you have to seek them out. So I knew that I wanted to progress and get myself into a management type role. And I moved from that control engineer function to then go and manage a team of people who are responsible for maintaining the electrical distribution system on site. So this was a team of electrical mechanical engineers. They were all men. It was my first time I was in a job where I was actually managing a team of men. And that was an interesting challenge at the time, because I come along, I'm this woman manager, I'm managing men who are older than me, some are as old as my father, they're set in their ways. So it was my first foray into that leadership type role, managing people, which through life and whatever role you're in, there's always going to be a challenge. But there is a methodology to leadership which I started to learn and grow and develop, which carried me through my career, I would say. Now, at this point, I'm 10 years into my career at this point, and apprenticeships are still happening. And so if every year they're taking on, say, about 30 new apprentices, over 10 years, they brought on 300 apprentices. And in that same period, 3 of them were women. So that's a 1% take up in apprenticeships in that 10-year period to that point. So I then, from that position, I wanted to continue to grow and develop me as in a managerial capacity and ultimately get more into that leadership space. I spent some time working in project management, and it was there that I was introduced to working alongside industry. Now, the MOD is very dependent on industry to supplement its organisation in order to achieve and maintain its operational outputs. And working with industry helped me grow and evolve as well as a person. It gave me more confidence in my ability, and as I say, allowed me to grow the skills and understanding relationships better and working with people to get outcomes and achieve success. I knew that I wanted to, I'd been in Clyde for some time, and I thought I have to move on from Clyde and try and get experience somewhere else so I could grow further again. And defence offers opportunities to work overseas. And I spied an opportunity to work in Germany, and I was successful in taking up an appointment there as an M&E projects, mechanical engineering engineer project manager in Germany. So I was switching from working alongside the Royal Navy to now working alongside the Army, who are predominantly engaged in joint operations within Europe based in Germany. And again, I find myself as the only woman in a wider integrated team in Germany until such times they appointed a new civil engineer and along came a female civil engineer. So there was the first time I was actually working alongside a colleague who was female, and that only took 15 years to get to that point. But my time in Germany, it was just absolutely amazing. I got the opportunity to work in a new country, experience a new life, a new culture, not a culture socially, but also a culture technically, and understanding how engineering works in another country. So that was really, really great for me. And my career is actually going on quite a high there. And I thought, what's my next opportunity here? And back to aspiring those types of jobs and roles, that's exactly what I want to do. That next opportunity presented itself to me in Germany. And I looked at the person who was in the role as head of facilities management for all of Germany. And so in Germany, the Army occupy what's called estate. Estate is the land in which they work and they live and they operate. And that land comprises everything from an office building to a house where they live with their family, to a school, to a church, to a garage, to a fuel installation. And all of that requires to be maintained. And the head of facilities management in Germany is responsible for managing an in-house organisation, 600 people, predominantly trades, and supported by a network of contracts. And that was the role I aspired to, and that was the role that I competed for and I actually got. And at that time, I also do recall there being some resentment still from my male peers that I was, one, applying for that job, and then I got that job. And again, I experienced that being in that leadership role of trying to manage and work with people and get people to work with you. And in hindsight, I think that's been one of my most rewarding challenges ever. And it's been one of the highlights of my career. Again, a major experience working with industry, recognising the value and importance of collaboration and positive behaviours, and how that leading by example and setting those positive behaviours is absolutely key to success. So getting to this point in my career, I'm pretty much near the pinnacle in terms of the career ladder from where I'm positioned within the civil service. And I know there's, in my heart, I'm thinking that I can go a step further. So I find myself scanning the horizon again, and I'm looking for a promotion opportunity. And by luck, that position was waiting for me in Glasgow. So I moved from working with a Defence Infrastructure Organisation in Germany back to Glasgow. And I'm working within another department within Defence, which is called Defence Equipment and Support. Now, they're responsible for procurement, and that's procurement for tri-service, so the Navy, the RAF and the Army. So they procure all their equipment. And that office their head office is based in Bristol, but within Glasgow there's an organisation called UK Defence Standardisation. So the military equipment is dependent on military standards. A lot of it is because of the nature of the equipment. It's not readily available off the shelf, and the portfolio of standards is managed and maintained in an office in Glasgow. So I became the head of standardisation, again managing a team remote from my parent department. And it's a really interesting challenge. So in the UK, we've got British standards. Other countries have their own standards. And within the European Union, they're European, you hear about EU standards. So you can imagine the commercial debate that exists when you have a dual or a multinational project and it comes to determining which standard are we going to use. And in the defence, the UK is very reliant on other nations and vice versa. So working together is really important for national security, and that's a common goal, but standardisation is still a very holy grail. And it's that multinational commitment towards standardisation defence that is brought together within NATO. And it's there that I then next find myself sat at a table, which is the Committee for Standardisation, and I'm there as a UK representative. And a team of, there's about 30 nations sat around that table, and there are 2 women, one from Slovenia and me from the UK. And I just, I think like the pattern is still there. And this is me, 30 plus years beyond the time that I started out. Having done that role for a couple of years, an opportunity came knocking at my door that actually took me full circle and brought me back to Clyde. It was really an exciting opportunity for me. I picked up a director level role as head of infrastructure at Clyde, and it gave me the opportunity to bring something, my knowledge and my experience back. It was a really, really fulfilling opportunity for me. I always knew I was going to leave the civil service early at some point in life, and I took the advantage of opportunity to do that. And as I say, it was another great opportunity to work again with industry and other MOD departments. And that role was more about balancing requirements and risk and affordability for defence, noting the challenges that it has with other government departments, and also noting the duty of care we have to the taxpayer when it comes to spending money. But what I did notice going back into that role, that women were far more visible in that integrated MOD and industry team. And it's good to see that now. It's it's positively encouraging, but we've still got such a long way to go. And again, I found myself, I was sat on a management board with 10 other directors, and there are 2 women. One is the HR manager and the other one is myself. So like the others who have spoke, Heather and Shannon who spoke before me, I have been very, very fortunate in my career, and I've had a lot of opportunity working in defence, and it is a sector that I would recommend as a potential opportunity for women to grow and thrive. I came from being an apprentice who one day was learning to weld, and then at the end, found herself sat at NATO headquarters in Brussels. So those opportunities are absolutely there. And I said I hadn't been plain sailing along the way. I have come up against resistance. I have been in situations where it's been difficult, we've had difficult conversations, but none of it's insurpassable. And I think that the level of, I've experienced very good counsel, and I call it counsel because mentoring wasn't officially recognised as a valuable tool at the time, but I did have good counsel, and all that good counsel came from men, and some of them are lifelong friends of mine now as well, and who love to tell me that if it wasn't for them I wouldn't be here. But I've also believed that I've worked hard to get where I am, and personally and academically. But I've battled with demons. I've suffered that imposter syndrome. I've had doubts about my capability, but by talking to other people and getting that support in the workplace, I've been able to get through that and beyond that. And that's absolutely key. And I think the mentoring that's available now to people is absolutely vital, whether you're male or female, absolutely vital in helping you, taking you along that path and enabling you to grow. So, and I think my learning today, the best thing I've learned in life is how to work with people, how to get the best out of people, how to learn from people, because it's people that make industry, that make life that lot better. So, as mentioned earlier, I'm now mentoring with Scottish Engineering. I'm doing that because I feel I want to give back. I feel I can offer advice and guidance. But I just want to get that message out there that a career in engineering is a great career. I've personally had such a fantastic time, and the reward has been so much more than just a technical aspect. So please consider a career in engineering is my message I want to put out to you. Thanks.
Amazing, Lorraine, thank you so much. Sorry, excuse me. If anybody has any questions for Lorraine, if you want to pop them in the chat function, I know we are having a wee bit of an issue, or if you want to unmute yourself and ask any questions. Doesn't look like we've got any coming through in the chat function.
Sarah, I might come in here if you don't mind. It's Karen Wallace. I'm the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Manager for ScotRail. Lorraine, and this is really a question for all of you in the panel, and thank you very much. The presentations have been so inspiring and outstanding. My question's related to menopause, something that I'm really passionate about. So I set up a menopause cafe with a colleague in Network Rail for colleagues in both ScotRail and Network Rail. And it's a peer-to-peer support network where we share personal stories, support and network, and signpost each other to supports. And what we've been doing within the rail industry is trying to highlight that this is a health and safety, it's an equality, and it's a strategic business issue. So my question really is, how do we ensure that the rail industry, engineering, industries that have been kind of predominantly dominated by male colleagues, how do we ensure they're menopause friendly? Because these are some of the barriers and challenges that colleagues have shared with us in the Menopause Cafe are that the uniforms, for example, don't have natural fibres, that there's a lack of flexible working opportunities, a lack of access to toilets for our female train drivers. I know it's a big question, but what are some of the things that we can do to address some of these barriers?
I mean, I can't offer a response to all of that, but I absolutely recognise the point that you're making. And I think there is still such a long way to go. If I think about how long it's taken us really to get mental health into a centre space, you know, so mental health, we've got that in the space, right? And I think that took a push on raising awareness and promoting that and continuing to promote that. And I think that that's like we've got a similar challenge on this particular issue as well. But it is already, I think we've got it in the air, it's in the air, so it's there, the conversations are taking place. I think we just have to build on that and continue to promote and raise the awareness. And people are listening now. And by people, I mean everyone across an organisation. They are listening. They may not already be as aware or ready to respond and react to what you're asking for there, which is absolutely quite right. That's as much as I could say on that at the minute, because I'm not in a workplace and I'm not dealing with that challenge at the moment.
Thanks, Lorraine.
That's great, Lorraine. We are at past now, but I think we will keep going because we have another couple of questions. If anybody does need to dip off, this session is being recorded, so you can catch up with the last part of our session if you would like. We do have a question, I think Janice Morgan?
Thank you very much, Lorraine. I'm the head of HR for Stratified Partnership for Transport, the Glasgow Subway, and we're currently modernising, as you probably know. We have no females in engineering, our maintenance function or our permanent way function. And I'm just wondering if there's any tips that you could give us to attract female applicants. Is there anything that we can do in adverts or anything that, you know, as a female engineer you would see that would attract you to that? We do obviously put in our normal, you know, we are an equal opportunities employer, but we just don't seem to be able to attract females.
And I think this is the challenge across the country, and it's why we're holding events like this. I think it's going to be very difficult just to do it in a job advert, and I think, you know, there's a lot of effort to be done, because where the education starts in schools, it's promoting the awareness of engineering as an opportunity. I think that's still a challenge at school age. But I mean, I don't know what the types of skills and qualifications that you're looking for and the job opportunities that you have there. But other than, for me, it's about taking it to it's the education at the lowest point, which is at schools, and that's actually at primary school. For me, it's primary school. But I just don't see how we can do it just in job adverts. Sorry, that's not a great answer. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you very much.
That was a really interesting question, Janice. We were wondering if Shannon, also from an apprentice point of view, do you have any feedback on that, Shannon?
Like Lorraine said, it usually comes from school level. I mean, I only left school 2 years ago, and it's not something that's spoke about at schools a lot. For engineering to be an opportunity, I think I've only ever heard one person in my whole 6 years of high school talk about engineering for universities. So when it comes to attracting females in your job applications, there's not so much that you can do in the job application to apply to females. For me, it's like promoting how your business can be inclusive and what qualities they've already got and stuff. It's just drawing them in to see that you are an inclusive company, because that stands out to females a lot, to say, oh, they've got things in place that would really help me as a woman coming in, because engineering is scary from a female perspective. So I'd say promote your equality and your inclusivity and stuff on your platforms, and that will probably draw in quite a lot of females to look at your business.
We're just going to have time for one more speaker. Heather, I see that you've got your hand up. You've had your hand up for a wee while. If you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, it was actually just to kind of feedback in the last couple of questions there, and I know I'm not coming from an engineering point of view, but I think certainly the equality and the diversity issues, you know, are mirrored right across all of these industries, and I can only feed back on what affected me. And when I was moving, I'd always been in male-dominated industries, but moving into freight to become the only female was intimidating even for me. And I generally don't think it was a move that I would have made had I not seen, as I was researching, that one of the freight companies had a female managing director and a female HR director, and 50% of the board were females. And if you'd asked me a couple of years ago whether me as a frontline employee cared who was on in boardrooms, I would have told you no. But actually, it's massively influential. And as Shannon and Lorraine have said, obviously we've got to hit schools. But I think it's so important that we recognise how important it is to have women in policy making positions, because, you know, you can have the best ED&I manager in the UK, you can have the best HR director in the UK, but it's not enough to have an ED&I manager and an on-board HR director. It's just not enough to have one female voice in the boardroom. Until people coming in and looking at your company see that there are women in those policy-making positions, then it's hard to trust that a company will understand menopause or understand PPE for women and understand that unisex is actually just menswear, and all the issues that affect us. You know, you can have the prettiest kind of adverts in the world, but unless you get women in the boardroom, then me looking at your company, I'm going to be hesitant. So it was just the kind of feedback in those last couple of questions.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Heather. So I think we'll wrap up there. Thank you massively to everybody who's joined us live this morning. Huge thank you to the speakers. It has been a great example of celebrating women in engineering for International Women in Engineering Day. So just to let everybody on the call know, hopefully we are hoping that our next event will return to being back in person, sort of restrictions allowing. We have previously held our inclusive engineering events in person, but we have had to move on to a digital platform. So keep an eye out, and the next couple of months our next event will be promoted. We would absolutely love to welcome you here to the Scottish Engineering offices. There's a pastry and a coffee in it for you if you do come. So I would suggest come early, or all the good stuff will be gone, because I'll eat it. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody. The session has been recorded. We'll be putting some links, and we'll send the recording to everybody via email, and we'll put some interesting links, and some of the questions that have been asked in the chat function will all be included in the email. And really at that, thank you so much, everybody, and have a lovely day.
Can I just do a final thing? There's a Women in Rail event on the 29th of June with David Roylance, and it's all about getting your voice heard. It's specifically targeted at females in a male environment, and David is definitely a character. It'll be a very practical session, and there'll be lots of posture and energy and all these kind of things. So please join if you'd like to. There's lots of details on the Women in Rail website and LinkedIn and things like that. So we'd love to see you there if you'd like to come along. Thanks so much. And thanks so much from me for the brilliant speakers too. A great session.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone. Cheers. Bye.